Hello, everyone. I'm laughing because that was kind of a funny transition to me. It was supposed to be a fade, not a wipe like that. Anyway, welcome. I'm so glad you're joining me for day 2 of 9 benefits when God's face is towards you. We've been diving into Jeremiah chapter 33, which the first few verses describe what it's like when God turns his face away from the country. And we see death, and we see destruction, and we see loss. We see the enemy is able to move in and bring in his benefits of being part of the kingdom of darkness. But when God's face is on them, I'm telling you, things change. God does amazing things, and we are just the recipients of it. It's so cool. I can't wait. Can't wait to dive into it. So before I go any further, hi, my name is Pastor Josh Richter. Thanks for joining me. My wife and I are over all things Root, and God is doing some amazing things through it. And so we just want to say thank you for watching this podcast, for watching her podcast, for being part of Root Bible Academy and getting your kids growing and thriving, being part of a family that's growing spiritually together, or Root Kidman, where we are resourcing children's ministries across North America, which is super fun. And then there's also Root of Revival, our traveling ministry, where we go into churches and stir them up in who they are and prepare the body of Christ for the next great awakening. I know it sounds like crazy, it sounds like a lot, and it is. But that's how God works, abundantly. And that's what we're talking about today, too. Because as God turns his face towards Israel, then it begins to describe what it is like. It says in the first 5 verses, it even says in verse 5 that his face was turned away from them. Then verse 6, nevertheless, I will. And then he begins to share what it is like when he turns his face back to the Israelites. If you missed yesterday, go back and listen to it. I don't have time to recap it. It's just so good. So we're jumping in today, Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 7. And this is what it says. It says, I will restore the fortunes of Judah and the fortunes of Israel, and will rebuild them as they were at first. This is just so wild to me. It's so fun because you think about it, the same breath as Jesus talking about restoring health in the verse before this, you see him saying he will restore their finances, their wealth, their fortunes. Fortunes goes even beyond monetary wealth. It's an abundance in everything. And notice, it doesn't even say that, or God doesn't even say that I will work with you so that when you go to accomplish things, my blessing will be on it, and it will increase more than you would expect. It doesn't even say that. He takes the man quotient part of it out of it completely. I got to put it up again. It says, I will restore the fortunes of Judah and the fortunes of Israel, and will rebuild them as they were at first. Notice, this is a full restoration. This is a restoration of everything that was stolen. And this is what we can receive too, because God does not play favorites. And as he says this is a benefit that comes with his face being turned towards his people in the Old Testament, guess what's true for us now? We're his people in the New Testament. And so when we read these verses of what it's like when God's face is turned towards you, we can receive these same things too. It's not even that we can, it's more that they're already available to us because God never turns his face away from us anymore. No, Jesus paid the price. He took on himself all of the curses of the Old Testament, all the curses of the commandments, of the law. And he then begins to share with us the authority, the righteousness, the kingdom of life benefits in every single way in superabundance, so that there is more than enough to be generous on every occasion with absolutely every aspect of the kingdom of light. And that's what we see happening right here. Jeremiah 33:6 was the health, complete health restoration. And in the next verse, he goes right on talking about fortunes. The fortune, let me put it back up there. I will get past this verse. That's my goal. He will restore the fortunes. Notice fortunes is plural. Fortunes, plural, of Judah, and the fortunes of Israel. It doesn't say just one fortune even. You know, in my head, I would think if God would say, okay, I'm going to restore the fortune that these two countries had, it would be, in my head, I would think, okay, everyone's little that they receive from God would add up to a fortune. Well, you can just see in God reference at this point, Israel was two different countries. And God didn't even say that he would restore the fortune of Judah and the fortune of Israel. That would refer then to the wealth of the government, of the leadership of that or the country, right? But no, instead, it's not that at all. It's the restoration of the fortunes of Judah. That means those living in Judah, the fortunes would be poured out upon them. And on Israel, the fortunes would be poured out onto those people. To not just so that they could have a little bit of what the devil had stole from them. No, it was a complete restoration of everything that was stolen from them. And it was going to be done at or by God's hand. That's just wild to think about. It's so different than our culture of, if you want more, you're going to have to work harder, you're going to have to work late, come in early, you're going to have to push harder than anybody else. You're going to, right? That's what we would think. And that sneaks into our Christianity. If we just follow God, we do what he says, we be who he wants us to be, we go where he tells us to go, we do what he wants us to do, then his face is on us. Health is promised, and now he's talking about fortunes being poured out. Some of you are like, oh, come on. You're going too far. This is one verse out of the entire Bible that talks about fortunes being poured out. And so you just can't camp on that one verse. I'm glad you asked, because it's time for me to move on to the New Testament. Look what Jesus says right here. Mark chapter 10, verse 29. Jesus said, truly I say to you. When he says truly, it's so that, hey, take note, this is 100% truth that may argue with how you regularly think. That's what he's trying to say. He's like, wake up. This point is going to be countercultural possibly for some of you that are listening, or even for us as that are reading it. So let me put it up again. Jesus said, truly I say to you, there is no one. How many are excluded from that? That's pretty all-inclusive. There is no one who has left house or brothers or sister or mother or father or children or farms for my sake and for the gospel's sake. Guess what it says? But you'll receive some of that back. You'll receive some of that in heaven. Nope. Next verse is, but that he will receive 100 times as much now in the present age. And then again details it. Houses and brothers and sisters and mothers and children and farms, along with persecutions, and in the age to come, eternal life. He just totally destroys that. Okay, no, the wealth that God's talking about, the fortunes, that's what we're talking about, heaven. And so when you're walking on streets of gold, it's like you have your fortunes that you would think would be fortunes here on earth, and so that's your part. No, he totally kills that thinking with this verse right here, and so many others, honestly. But let me put it up. He will receive 100 times as much now in the present age. This is another thing we must expect as an automatic byproduct of God's face being turned towards us. The first was healing. God's face towards the Israelites immediately resulted in supernatural health and healing being poured out on them, restoring complete and supernaturally empowering them to walk in total health for the rest of their lives. And choosing to, notice this is listed first, almost like as if accepting this would be the gateway to the rest. The next was that supernatural wealth. Supernatural wealth. The finances, the restoration of valuables to the point where you could walk in, just like with health, supernatural level of health for the rest of your life. You can walk in supernatural finances, supernatural wealth, supernatural fortune. That's what it says that God is pouring out. Hang on, I got to look it up real quick because I know this is going longer. Some of you are like, when is it supposed to be wrapping up? It's just so fun. Let me read. So I read for you verse 7. And then I don't put this one up, but verse 11 then again says, for I will restore the fortunes of the land. That's what God is saying. He reinforces it just a few verses later. It's just awesome. So where does this come? How does this happen? Well, we can have a fantastic clue from our good friend John. In 3 John 2, it says, beloved, I pray that in all respects you may prosper and be in good health, just as your soul prospers. So how does your soul prosper? When you focus on who God is and what he promises to do in you and through you and for you, it stirs up a joy overflowing within you that no devil in hell or in any life around you can stand up against, and you will begin to see all the promises manifest in the natural world. Yes, he will still rise up in others. That's why in Mark chapter 10, verse 30, it says you're going to have this supernatural outpouring of abundance in every single area. And then along with that will come persecutions. Why? Because people won't like seeing how much of excess you have poured out on you. They'll say things like, that's not fair. Why? How do they get so much? Why are they doing that? I don't understand that. It's not even like they worked that hard for it. Why do they get all these things? What kind of things? And they begin, to persecute you, right? That's what we can receive. How does that not affect us? When we are first stirred up, our soul is made strong. Our soul is prospering. We are overabundant with joy and love and hope and goodness. And we're going to talk about that in a future day. I almost said a week, but this is for the whole week. But we'll talk about that very soon, probably Thursday. Tomorrow I got something that you're going to kind of find funny that this would be listed as number 3, because most people would put this as the one and only. But God waits till 3rd to mention this one. Now you guys are kind of curious, aren't you? Too bad. You're going to have to wait. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll see y'all in the next podcast. Bye, everybody.